friends, welcome back to Random Hearts and welcome to the garden shed. Today we are avoiding some wind outside. We've had thunderstorms rolling in and out all day long, and that does affect my audio pretty heavily. So I thought, you know what? I want to go sit out in the shed. You guys can get a sneak peek of what is to come eventually. We are not quite done out here, but we are getting very, very close. My husband did hurt his arm building some of the cabinetry out here, and that happened in October. And then winter came and it's been a whole thing. So we'll get into that when we get to that video. But today I want to share with you what has been going on in our yard. It has been since March that we've posted anything about the garden. In fact, I think I was planting seedlings and just starting seeds at that point. I had video prepared and ready to go for April. I actually did garden cleanup and a bunch of other things. But as many of you know, I had some surgeries at the end of December. I'll link that up in the cards if you'd like to watch that video on my mouth. And I just am not super comfortable being in front of the camera right now. So when I have to do the editing and I have to look at myself, I already have a problem listening to my own voice, but looking at things that I have zero control over and I'm not super comfortable with is even twice as hard. So I, for whatever reason, did not get that video out. I may try to put clips of photos or video here and there into this video to try to fit those pieces in there, but just know that if it's got brown grass and there's snow on the ground, that was from my April video that I just never got to putting together. But I don't expect things will get much better because I have surgery in 2 weeks for the implant posts themselves. And then after those are put in, I'll have another 4 months of healing. So I don't know how much I'll want to be in front of a camera for that. Definitely not the first month. But we are going to just take you on a garden tour today, show you a little bit about what we are doing, what has been going well for us, what has not been doing so well. We have some things we need to do some remedies on, and we've had some issues. We've also had some praises. We actually, the very first thing I want to talk to you about, we talked to our neighbor at the back of our property at the end of May, and she was very accommodating. We told her about the trees that we were having trouble with. We told her about the grass along the fence line that was coming through, and we found out a little bit about why the yard is not being taken care of. So a little bit of backstory here, but our neighbor is a single elderly woman. She has grown children, but she lives alone, and she inherited the house from her father when he passed away. Now, he was able to take care of the property because he had people come in and take care of it. But she has mobility issues and she has income issues that prevent her from being able to do any kind of help. So when we found that information out, we offered to take down the 4 trees that were along the fence line, and those were volunteer trees, meaning that they self-seeded and were just allowed to grow. We also took down some of the grasses along the fence line and cleaned up some of the trees and shrubs that had overgrown and had dead in them. We did a lot of pruning. This took us well over 3 days. My husband and I both worked at this pretty hard. My husband more than myself. He actually climbed all the trees like a monkey, tied off ropes to them, and we gently sawed through those branches, and I would tug on the rope to guide the branch in the direction we wanted it to fall. We needed these branches to fall away from our building, our shed, our fence, her fence. She had a camper on the ground that we needed to be careful of. So, and you know, there's a road there as well, so we had to be careful of that. But it did take us 3 whole days. We had quite a lot of debris that we hauled off to our local dump station, and a couple of our neighbors came and took some of the larger trunks. So it was a win-win for everyone, and we are super happy to have those down. We also are happy to have the grass along the fence line mowed down. That helps quite a lot with weed control. And you'll see here in a minute when we go around the yard that we have a lot more sun in that area than we expected we would have. So next year I may have to deal with too much sun in that garden bed. and put a shade cloth on it. But as many of you know, the reason we had to take those down was because those trees were actually coming underneath our concrete retaining wall, coming into our garden beds and causing compacted soil in those garden beds. They were taking nutrients from our plants that we were trying to grow because they were not getting any kind of water source on their side. So they were going wherever they could find the water. And because elm trees in this area are a do not plant tree and they consider them trash trees, they are not something that we should have in our yards. And a lot of times they do suggest you take them out. We have one in our yard and we are very much considering taking that one down as well. But we've got to get some established shade in the yard before we can do that. But let's go around the yard. Let's take a look at all the other things that have been going on, and we'll talk about some of the good and bad things in the yard itself. We are going to begin right here at the shed. You can see where those trees were. They were right here. There is another grouping of 3 back there along her side driveway, but we did opt to leave those in for now. We'll see how it goes. But you can see we're kind of shady right now because we have cloud cover, but this bed is definitely not getting the shade that it needs for the cool season crops that are in there. I do have peas, spinach, and a couple different types of lettuce in there. But I have to tell you, we started off this garden season on a very good note. I had everything in my garden on the first week of May. I was watching temperatures, making sure everything was looking really good. We had no frost in the forecast at all, and so I put everything out. We never did get another freeze again until we went on vacation at the end of June. The 17th of June, we actually had a freeze that next night. And even though these things have been growing in the ground for quite a long time, they did not do well because of that cold temperature. And then a couple days later, we got a very bad hailstorm. In fact, we were coming back from Yellowstone and I finally got cell service on my phone and had thunderstorm warnings for 70-mile-an-hour winds and up to 2 inches diameter on hail. So needless to say, I do have some footage here of where we came back from Yellowstone and some of the mayhem that ensued after that. But that was almost 4.5 hours after the initial hail had hit. One of our neighbors told us that the hail kept coming for almost 20 minutes. Started off as pea-sized, then moved to marble, and then quarter-sized, and it was intense. So the garden did not fare very well this year. I've got cabbage, I've got carrots, I've got onions. Garlic is actually way ahead of schedule, and I'm just about ready to pull that out, probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'll start drying that down. But you can see our tomatoes and peppers are struggling. They just really are not doing super well. I am impressed, however, that some of these plants have been able to recover as well as they have, because some of these were just sticks about 2 weeks ago. So everything's looking much better now, but we did have that huge hailstorm. And it seems like we get more and more of that every single year. So I'm going to walk down here into the fire pit area. This was newly completed last year. We've got some plants growing over here that were not here last year. Got some Nepeta, some yarrow. The yarrow did die back and it is starting to come back at the ground again. Got some verbena down there and all of our zinnias. And you'll notice over here that we've got a couple of different new shrubs. We've got a barberry right here that was planted this year. This is a 9 bark, which I do think it's going to get a little bigger than we'd like for this space, but it should fill in very well. And that is a dwarf burning bush. So we've got these 3 new plants and shrubs in this area right underneath our chokecherry. Now our chokecherry is doing quite well. We did have some problems with the hailstorm. Got a couple of dead branches and broken branches up in it that we do need to take down. But yeah, we're doing very well over here in this section. And we have loved this fire pit area. It's just worked out perfectly for us. It's easy to take care of, easy to clean. Did have a little bit of frost heave this winter that we were concerned with, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. It came out of it very quickly. And we're still planning to get that bridge in here at some point. We just have a couple other projects that are in line ahead of it. So as we pan around this way, this is along the brick patio here, the paver patio. I did put in 3 new lavender shrubs this year. They're in between these boxwoods on the back side, and they're doing pretty well. We did change up our drip irrigation in this bed a little, but you'll see all throughout my plants I've got hail damage everywhere. All those chewed up, holey leaves. It did cause some problems for some of our blooms, but we are looking pretty good, especially for the first week of July. This looks really great. Very much progressed with a lot of our plants. Like I said, I had everything out in the garden by the first week of May. And I was just watching weather, making sure everything was doing well. These plants right here did sustain quite a bit of hail damage as well. They should be a lot further along than they are. We may get some wind interference here. We did buy a new fountain, and I love the sound in this fountain. It has a beautiful cascading sound. Also love the lights at night. This by far is one of my saddest things in the yard. These were glorious before we left on vacation to Yellowstone, and the hail turned them just into sticks. This is basil and a bell pepper. Actually, I think that might even be, yep, that's a bell pepper, some thyme, a marigold, and this poor tomato plant. It is trying, but they literally were sticks when we came back from Yellowstone. And look at all this new foliage. It's trying. This is a jalapeno right here. But, oh, they are trying. We'll see if they can go. I was not sure if I should keep them or pull them out the day we came back from Yellowstone. By the way, that video will be up here shortly. I am working on editing that right now, so stick around if you'd like to see our travels to Yellowstone. We've got dill, we've got cilantro that's going to seed. That is some parsley. We've got oregano right here, a little bit more of our thyme, and then mint and basil again. Now that's all my herbs in this section. You'll see I've got quite a lot of cutback that needs to be done with our bulbs in here. I've got tulips that I could definitely cut the foliage down. Daffodils aren't quite ready for that yet, but this is looking pretty good. I'll pop up some pictures on the screen for what it looked like when they were blooming. This right here is our wagon this year. I am loving the color combination in here. Love these big petunias. Don't know what the variety is or anything, but I love their coloring. And mixed with that annual salvia and the Dusty Miller, Yeah, they're just beautiful. I planted all of these marigolds from seed. So all the marigolds in the yard are from my own hand. I planted them myself. These are the Shasta daisies that I transplanted from over in this bed over here last year. And I didn't expect them to come back, and they're doing quite well. Got some tomatoes going right here on the end again, and these have bounced back the best. Out of everything that got hit with the hail, these are doing the best. And unfortunately, we are getting rain right now, so I am going to make this short, and we'll come back to this here in a minute as soon as it is done raining. Well, like true Wyoming rain, it's just a couple drops, a couple feet in between those drops. I'm going to try to film this anyway. We've got more storm clouds coming in, but I think we can get past this. So right here, not much has changed. We have pretty much everything in here that was here last year. Haven't really added anything new to this bed. And I apologize again if the audio gets messed up with the wind. It is coming in and out. But everything looks really good in here. We did miss most of our lilac blooming. That's this one right here. Whoops, if I can focus in on it. While we were in Yellowstone, that bloomed, but I did come back and clean up all the blooms on that, so hopefully we have no problem with that. I've got a couple of red cabbage in this bed, some more petunias, and a whole bunch of marigolds. Our Shasta daisies here are just about ready to start blooming. And you can see the Russian sage all came out of everything very nicely. And again, I put in some of that lemon coral sedum this year. Just everything looks really pretty over in this bed. We've got a lot of our campanula starting to bloom. You can see the hail damage on this poor lamb's ear right here. Just sad. But this red twig dogwood has jumped in height. Our corkbark fir here doing very nicely as well. But I'm going to pan up here in a second and show you where we are having issues. This is our maple tree. It has been in the ground for almost, I think this would be its third year. And you can see that the whole west side of the tree is pretty much dead. We had a couple of branches that tried to send out new leaves, but we had a super mild spring, super mild winter, and then all of a sudden at the end of May, we got a cold, well actually it was at the end of April, we got a cold snap, and it really hurt this tree, I think. It did not come out of it very well. We do have a replacement, but we decided that we are going to wait and see how it does next year. So we are not going to put that replacement in. Instead, we are going to put that into our front yard and try to establish some shade out there. These Globe arborvitae are looking beautiful. We do have plans to take all the large bark out of this bed. We also have this beautiful barberry right here. I love its chartreuse color. Got a spirea behind it. And look at all of this glorious bloom. This is my shade area, and this is our elm tree right here that I'm not sure I want to keep. But you can see if it were gone, I would lose all of these plants. These are all shade-loving plants, and because I am facing the south, none of these plants would be protected. I would either need to move them or figure something else out. That is why I'm so upset about our maple tree not coming out of the winter very well, because we were really hoping that could take over and become our shade tree. Now we do have some new plants up here in this section. We do have some perennial geraniums up there. We also have some more sweet woodruff. I planted a couple more Jacob's ladders up there. And we're just trying to fill this section in a little more with some ground cover. But again, everything is shade loving. So if this tree were to go away, we would have some issues with all of these plants. This is one of my favorite sections of the yard, and I'll pan out here in a minute and show you why I love it so much. This plum tree did very well this year, but I think it is not going to have any plums on it. We did have some problems with the fruiting season. I've heard that a lot of people had trouble losing their fruit because of the cold when it was not expected. I think probably the early spring put everything into a warm up and everything started coming out of dormancy a little too early. And then we got that cold snap at the end of April, first couple weeks of May. It got warm again and everything just was on a roller coaster. And it's kind of how it's been all season. So this is kind of a panoramic view of the yard right now. We're very happy with everything. There are a few issues, but we will get those fixed at some point. And you can see right here, that is our extra maple tree right there. That one is going to go into the front yard. Now, I did want to talk to you briefly about one of the other problems that we've got in the yard. And this is fairly new to us. We do have deer pressure in our town, and they think that over 100 head of deer live in town. But we have got deer jumping over that fence right there, getting into the yard and munching on my garden. I lost a bunch of lettuce to them. They've trampled some of my flowers. I don't see a whole lot of damage other than that, but we are trying to figure out a way to add a barrier to that fence so that the deer won't feel obliged to come over it. But this is why I love that elm tree in the back so much. This view right here, I just can't get anywhere else. And someday I am going to show you what our natural landscape looks like and why this is so impressive. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Send us some sweet comments. We could sure use those right now. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. We hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.